Holding. All right. Perfect stuff. Good
Hello.
afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first edition of the IDEA Tech and Product Committee's webinars. We are deeply excited as IDEA to bring together a group of distinguished experts from across the global majority and from across the world, really, for us to be able to fully understand, to fully comprehend, and look at the risks that are currently existing in our landscape, for us to eventually be able to not only catch up to the rest of the West, but rather for us to be able to harness the collective strengths of our ideas and for us to eventually, create a prospering digital majority. We're deeply excited today to host this session together with some of our colleagues and friends across the industry, starting with my good friend here, Hussein, Carissa, Dr. Claudia, and Adi, and we'll be excited to go through, what the cyber resilience in the digital economies looks like, what some of those risks are looking like, and then lastly, for us to look at what exactly it is we can do to be able to protect ourselves. Obviously, the outcomes of this particular session is going to be really a toolkit that we can be able to use as the digital majority for us to be able to protect ourselves. Without further ado, I'd like to have Ms. Alexander from the board, from the IDEA board, to come and give us some opening remarks and to share what this whole idea of IDEA is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tavong. I think it's really most awaited event. Recently, we launched with IDEA this new initiative. Is this inaugural, like a global virtual meeting of experts in cybersecurity coming from different global majority regions, different time zones. I think that's the brilliance of International Digital Economies Association putting together those different nations, cultures, expertise from Pakistan, South Africa, Brazil, and Indonesia. And on behalf of the board, namely Dr. Sigun Aina, our chairman from Nigeria, Dr. Jochen Biedermann from Germany, Jatinder Handu from India, Christina Mormaklang from Philippines, Paul Lee from Hong Kong, Chiu Hock Lai from Singapore, and Rodrigo de la Cruz from Spain. I'd like to congratulate our Tech and Products Committee with this brilliant initiative, and it's just the beginning of our projects and series, I believe, series of master classes you're going to do. So congratulations to Tavonga, a team of the committee, Ibrahim Amin and Joseph Kibret Kiletso. And I'd like to welcome all our distinguished speakers, and please share with us your ideas, insights for the benefit, for the common benefit of the global majority. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction, Alexandra. I hope everybody feels welcome as a result. I think, without wasting any additional time, I think we'd like to then now get into the crux of the session. So I think the first thing that I'd like to do is I'd just like each of the speakers to just give us a brief, synopsis of, their career so far, some of the work that they've currently been working on, and, their background, just so that we can give context to the conversation. I think we'll just start over with Hussein, and then we'll go over to Carissa.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Isaka Karachi chapter in Pakistan. I am Hussain Hassan Ali, and I have over 30 years of experience in technology assurance, governance, and of course, security, and then data privacy. My career has been split over a number of institutions. So starting off with 10 years at the Aga Khan University, which is also a medical institution in 10 years in internal audit, and then moving on to IT audit. I established IT audit over there. During that time, we established the ISACA Karachi chapter, which enabled us to hold CISA and other exams, which was tremendously important for the country. Going on, then I went over from there to Ernst & Young. Went from industry to the firm, and as a senior manager in technology risk in security services, and very quickly, I was called off to the UK on secondment, so Saudi Arabia first, and then to the UK. Around 10 years I spent in the UK, and then I was back in Pakistan with some stints in Bahrain, again with Ernst & Young. And then I joined a bank as this Chief Information Security Officer here. Information security was just starting off at that point in time, so that was extremely, extremely important. Starting off with a team of 4, I had a team of 45 when I left it after 5 years, with every area covered in that. So there's a whole landscape of security covered within that. And I moved on to head technology audit as the general manager technology audit at HBL, which is the largest bank in Pakistan, largest bank by far. And then last year I left HBL and started off my own, freelancing as well as consulting. Right now I'm a consultant with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan, with their Digital Assurance and Accounting Board, where we are doing amazing things. We have some courses. The latest one is on intelligent automation, RPA and AI, which is very, very topical and timely. And I'm also developing an IT framework for the industry. The financial services regulator has developed a very good framework for banks, but the industry is left behind. So that's what I'm doing. I'm also a consultant for a Saudi firm of chartered accountants. I'm leading their technology consulting across the Middle East. And I'm the president of the ISACA Karachi chapter, which is always
Yeah, that's an exciting profile, Hussein. I think we're going to really, really learn quite a lot from you here in this session.
I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm here to learn as well. Thank you.
No, definitely. I'm definitely excited to see, what we can get there. I think we can head over to Carissa.
Thanks, Tavonga. I'm Carissa Varma. I am Microsoft's Chief Security Advisor for Africa. I joined Microsoft towards the end of last year. Prior to that, I had a group CISO role at one of Africa's biggest telecommunication companies. And prior to that, a group CISO role at one of Africa's biggest financial services institutes. So I've got critical infrastructure experience. I've got financial services experience, lots of war stories and scars. Did it the wrong way more than I did it the right way. Lots of lessons and learnings to share, and excited to be here today. Thank you, Tavonga.
Thank you so much, Carissa. Definitely exciting to get and draw, in some of those insights. I'm going to ask about some of those war stories, and I'm actually very interested in some of those that you didn't get right. So this is, I'm just forewarning you. I think we can move over then to Claudia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Claudia Baz. I'm professor of electrical engineering department at the University of Brasilia. I would like to say thank you so much for the invitation to be part of this panel, that you are going to speak about a very actual and very important subject. I'm also a member of the working group of cyber resilience at World Economic Forum. So today I will bring some insight about our last report that you just released 2 weeks ago. I'm research at university and talking about security. I have been research for the last 30 years about security, but now the subject that caught me attention, that I'm putting all my energy, is about IoT security using AI and blockchain technology. Thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.
Definitely exciting. I think that's an interesting perspective right there. It'll be interesting to see, how we can be able to support some of those end users. Because I mean, one of the issues that you will realize in the system is that people often ignore the IoT part of it, but that's actually a particular entrance for threats that can come in and attack us at different times. So that'll be exciting to see. We can move over then to Adi.
Yes.
I hope I'm saying your name. Pardon? I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yes, perfectly. Thank you, Tavonga and colleagues, and greetings from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm Ardi Suteja. I'm locally known as the chairman and also the co-founder of the Indonesia Cybersecurity Forum. And I have actually a different career path compared to my other colleagues, from Hussein, Teresa, Claudia, and the others. Actually, I was involved in IT at a very young age. Many years ago, yeah, and I was also a witness to see our first satellite went into orbit in 1976, whereas Indonesia was the third country in the world, yeah, after the US and Canada, to manage and operate its own commercial satellite. Can you imagine that? In 1976, we were leading, but unfortunately, we did not manage to catch up with the rest of the world and other people making big money, yeah, out of technology. And that's not criticism, but I have a mixed career. I also spent many years with the Indonesian government, also the armed forces. And after retirement, I now spend my career with a state-owned enterprise, sitting on a senior board level. And now I'm also devoting most of my time and experience to teach at various university, lecturing about cybersecurity and also data protection and digital transformation. I think that's about it. The rest, I think, is going to be taking a long time because it's going to take 2 semesters to share what I've been through.
Yeah, but this is exciting. This is exciting.
Yes.
I think, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that we can all agree on for sure is that we've got a very power-packed panel, and I think it's going to be one that we will be able to learn quite a lot from. I think without further ado, we're just going to now dive directly into the panel and into some of the questions that we have. And if any members of the audience have any questions for some of our guests, please do feel free to share them directly in there in the chat. And once we're done with the first session of the questions for the guests, we will go on and actually go and spotlight and share those. And in terms of the first area that I'd want us to look at is really I think one key thing that we can all agree on is that we're actually now starting to see a different type of cyber threat from what we used to know, back in the day. I think I think Adi can definitely tell you for sure that when he was working in 1976, the threats that he was looking at and dealing with on a daily basis are certainly, as not as sophisticated as the kind that we're seeing now. And the one thing that we're realizing is that they're more targeted, they're more persistent, and they're very regionally nuanced. In that in one area they will understand the nuances of how that area works, and then they'll go and attack. So I think one question that I'd like to bring to the team, I think I'll just obviously start with the Adi, is really looking at some of these threats. What types of threats are really keeping you up at night currently as we speak, and what do they look like on a daily basis?
Well, this is one thing, I think a lot of people think that our profession, we call ourselves the cyber guardian. And a lot of people think that what we do is very glamorous, and very high paying and rewarding. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something. In reality, it's a nightmare for us because while everyone else goes on a vacation, everyone else goes on vacation during Christmas or during the Ramadan. The end of Ramadan goes on vacation. I don't know what vacation is, basically. And I have to spend most of my vacation time, overseeing the security of our critical infrastructure. And I have a team doing that. But like I said, it's a very challenging job, very strenuous. Not only time consuming, but it's also a health threatening job. But definitely it's challenging. But like I said, given the speed of the and the changes of the technology, the challenge, the threats that we're facing is getting more and more complex.
Yeah.
And we are now to focus on things that we are being told to focus, but in reality, most of the threats that we are now facing uh, are are not there. We don't even know what they are in reality.
Uh,
I just came to this reality just recently after going, share some issues with my colleagues from various parts of the world, there, U.S. and Europe. That I think we have to redefine what cybersecurity is all about and what are the threats that we're facing. Because apparently there are a lot of form of threats that we're facing that are not on. It's not there. It's not. No one has written about that. We're focused on something that everyone else is focusing, but no one is focusing what we call them the iceberg theory, the iceberg of ignorance. And we're only focused on what's on top of the iceberg. But the reality now, what is now threatening all of us, lies below the iceberg. And there's huge form of new threats coming into our pipeline that we don't even know. As if we're facing a new disease, new disease. We don't even know what the disease, the name of the disease. I don't think the pharmaceutical industry has came out with with the remedy. And this is what we're facing now. It's getting complex, and everyone else is, just it's a very puzzling and mind-boggling issues that we're facing. Yeah. On the other hand, um, the current threat that we're facing, like ransomware, phishing, yeah, these are the things that we already know. We already know. It's just a name. It's just a name. It's a name.
Yeah.
But my biggest concern that I think that everyone else should be focusing is we have to also understand that there are a lot of threats that has no name. And I think this is the challenge for all of us to do a deep dive on these issues, on these issues. And this is why this is like as you said, will be a great panel of discussion this evening. And I think I'm just opening up to you guys, and for some issue. And I'm quite sure that my other colleagues, my other panelists, colleague will have something more to share during this discussion.
No, definitely, definitely. And I think what you're bringing forth there is really, really profound. Because I mean, one of the things that we like to think as professionals, of course, is that we have everything under control.
Yes.
But the reality, of the matter is that, in this particular case and what we're dealing with, the kinds of threats we're dealing with, these are big threats that in some cases we've never heard of them before. And we don't even know they exist. And we'll only find out they exist after an attack happens and we're all helpless and we're wondering what on earth is it we're doing. But I mean, that's so exciting. I think I'll just bring Claudia now onto the floor to also then help us, look through what some of those threats that are keeping her up at night are and what they look like.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the question. In the same line with Mr. Ard, there is no system that's entirely secure, no? So I think that you should focus on limit the impact, not just the prevention. No, because as said Mr. Ard, sometimes you don't even know the name of the thread, the kind of the thread. So you should focus on limiting the impact now, because with the AI, the attacks is increasing exponentially every day. So it's a big problem. The thing that I'm more concerned about threat now is about IoT device attacks, because this kind of attack can stop all the chain supply. For example, now I'm working with a project with a port here in Brazil that they call us to develop a project because they suffer some attack that just stopped the port, and you can imagine that it stopped the exportation and importation of the product. So it's a very big problem, and it's not just in Brazil, around the world. As I said before, I'm in the working group of cyber resilience at the World Economic Forum, and this is a subject that all the time you are discussing, that the attacks, they are stopping the supply chain in all the world, and this is a very, very important point. So that's my contribution. I think that IoT, you should care more about IoT. I used to tell my students when I give in the first class about IoT, I would to ask them, do you know how many sensors you have in your car? They don't know. You don't know. You have a lot of sensors that I used to tell them that you don't care because you don't see, but it's very important, and it should yes, you should take care about them. You don't see, but they are there, and they can be the back door to enter some attacks. So this is my contribution for the question. Thank you.
No, definitely. I think I need to look under the hood of my car this afternoon, just so that I can check what's going on there. Who knows? Maybe as I'm driving to work tomorrow morning, somebody might be coming in there to control my car. Now I lose control all of a sudden. But I think it's actually very interesting, because I think as we deploy some of these technologies, one of the things, of course, that we always ignore is the impact and the threats that are introduced as we introduce some of these new nodes into our network. And I think it will be very exciting to unpack even more around how we can secure those IoT devices. So as we move over to Carissa. What's keeping you up at night? Look, you've got a big portfolio, first of all. And I think you've been holding these big portfolios for a while. And I'm sure, what's keeping you up at night varies from night to night.
Yeah, definitely. So Tamonga, just setting the scenes about threats. We collect 78 trillion signals a day across the globe. So that's what we're getting into us. And that's the insight that we have to understand what's happening globally with regards to threats. We see 600 million attacks a day against customers, against infrastructure, even non-customers, just information we're gathering. And the thing that really keeps me up at night is a lot of what we're seeing is actually the basics still not being done correctly. So as an example, phishing is still the most pervasive way for an attacker to get into an organization. But what a phishing attack does is it tries to get access to your identity, which is your username and your credentials. 99% of the attacks that we see are still compromising a password. And we've had something like multi-factor authentication available to us for many years. So, we have the power in our hands to disrupt 99% of the identity attacks that we're seeing globally at this point in time by just applying multi-factor authentication, which is your username as well as a password and maybe something you have like biometrics or one-time PIN. So what really keeps me up at night is we have this complex landscape where we're not getting the basics right. And then we have this evolving world that technology is advancing. Attackers are using artificial intelligence to make, increase the speed of the attacks and the scale of the attacks. And we have these two worlds colliding. And really it's forcing companies to wake up, to look at investing in cybersecurity, to look at, getting the right skills in place to be able to weather the storm going forward. Because a lot of the world is digitizing and our businesses are online. And if our businesses are online and we're not protecting those online businesses, we're at huge risk.
Look, I really thought that 99% of the risks, these fancy hackers are doing all these fancy things, but you're telling me just username and password and identity alone is 99% of their attacks.
So 99% of attacks against identity are targeting the username and password. So if you get MFA in place, you're going to have all those identity attacks just drop, and you're going to have that 1% that's now being in the wild and globally.
Wow. I think this brings me over to an interesting side question just before I get to saying, I think almost every single large corporation today has got all these cybersecurity trainings that are mandatory, right? And I think this is the first message that everyone is being told about, to say, listen, you've got to keep updating your password very frequently. You can't have a common password across all your devices. If you see an email or, some communication, check the domain to make sure it's the right one. Make sure that confirm the sender. What could the problem be? Because clearly we are doing the training. what could that problem then be? Where's the issue stemming from?
So, Tavanga, humans aren't perfect. So we build systems that are imperfect. Our own resilience against attacks is imperfect, and so attackers understand this, and
Mm.
they play off this. So they play off human
Mm.
vulnerability. They play off vulnerabilities that we code into our systems, and they
Mhm.
find those weaknesses to exploit. So it's really important to have a layered defense. Yes, you
Definitely.
can train your employees. That's really great. But if
Mhm.
you're still using a username and password, an attacker is going to look there. They are eventually going to get an employee somewhere in an organization to give up that username and password. So
Mhm.
it's about layered defense. Train your employees, make sure you've got the right processes in place so that when an attacker tries to compromise you, it's not a single person's approval that gets a transaction going with the business.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
apply technology on top of that that makes sure that you have robust controls, multi-factor authentication, detection of incidents, mail protection, all of those things sit on top of that. But it's a holistic system. It can't just
Yes.
be technology, it can't just
Mhm.
be process, and it can't just be people. We have to pull it all together.
Interesting. I think we might as well just stop here. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. That's really exciting. In terms of what it means to be able to deal with some of these threats. But I think I just want to then move on to saying I think you've got some very interesting experience in that Southeast Asia, and in the areas around Karachi, and also in Europe as well as in the Middle East. Obviously, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you've seen the threats coming from different areas. I think from your end, what are some of those threats that are keeping you up at night?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. It's been engrossing. I've been listening to to the other speakers, and they've been sharing things that have, been sitting at the heart of how I treat and think about. So what RD was saying, what is there that we don't know? That
Mm,
that part is mind-boggling,
mm,
and you cannot. And I'm saying this, with some experience. You
of course.
cannot become a security expert or a manager, someone who's leading that initiative, if you do not sit back and reflect and you have the approach to address this. So risk management, the risk assessment, starting off from there.
Mm,
One of the challenges that most organizations, and I've seen, because I've been on the third level of defense, third
mm,
line of defense, which is as the auditor, they do not even have a proper, complete, comprehensive inventory of the IT assets. How are they
mm.
going to protect something that they don't even know, they don't have visibility on? And
Ah,
so number of things over there. And what I'll do is I'll just go through contextualizing my response. You know, Currently what we are seeing in globally are some threats that have been also impacting Pakistan. It just
mhm,
shows that the world has become a very small, we are all united, we are all connected in
mm,
that regards. So Pakistan, if I was to just share about where we are standing today, like most emerging digital economies, the fintech space is rapidly evolving, and it's
mhm,
fueled not only by the technological advancements what we are seeing has been happening, but there is also an increasing demand for innovative financial solutions. The
mhm,
potential for growth is great, because we have over 60% of our 240 million people are under the age of 30 years, and
mm.
that's the age group that is going to come forward and start using technology more and more.
Yeah.
And over 100 million adults lack access to formal financial services. So the
Mm,
whole scale of unbanked, which means there are people who are going to come and start using these things. Penetration in terms of digital, footprint, mobile phones, that is great. It has been spreading all across. Internet connectivity is there. But what impacts us? Just look at the recent events, the war with India, earlier
mm,
this month. It negatively impacts growth initiatives. And we've experienced a severe escalation in state-sponsored and geopolitical cyber threats. Now, cyber warfare has become, the first step in
Mm,
any attack. And there are these cyber warriors, as they are known, who are attacking countries. But conflicts are not restricted to Pakistan only. A
mm,
recent report noted that globally, nearly 60 conflicts are taking place right now. A
oh,
lot of those we are not aware of. We are only focused on the more hyped ones, such as Ukraine
mm,
and Russia, and across other places. But this is there. This is happening, and
mm,
as tensions rise, we see an increase in sophisticated technology-oriented attacks.
mm,
So, AI, the use of AI has, more than industry and organizations and people using it for their own benefit. We
mm,
see the cyber criminals leveraging AI, and they
mhm,
are automating phishing. What Carissa was saying is so true. They are automating phishing and other sophisticated social engineering attacks.
mm,
Now you have an advanced persistent threat which goes on evolving. It learns from how
mm,
the target has responded, and then it comes back with another approach, a refined approach. So very difficult for people to just, with one sort of training, antiquated approach to that they can, one training in a year can carry them through. They're not going to be able to do that. So we need, focused, continuous training throughout the year.
mhm, mhm,
Supply chain is what, I believe Claudia also mentioned. So that is, we have now dependency with digital transformation and use of digital services, where
mm,
organizations are directly linking up to their suppliers, many of who are in different countries. How is
mm,
that being protected? If they are not implementing proper security in that whole chain,
mhm,
you've got a problem. And
mm,
this is happening in real. We are seeing it across the board. So
yeah,
what keeps me awake at night is how to effectively mitigate these attacks and keep our clients and customers safe,
mhm,
because it's not going to happen automatically, and this is not
okay,
going to reduce
mm,
very soon.
mm, mm. No, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we actually had a very interesting incident recently for one of our corporates, one of our clients, and they're in financial services. And what happened is that the attackers were impersonating directors within the financial services firm. So they actually would send these emails that looked so real that if you read them, you would literally think that, this is so contextually aware in terms of what's going on here, to an extent that, you just be like, even I would have fallen for this particular one. And if you look at even the way the email came in, the email address was so close. I think it was just one letter away. With the way that they configured that, and the letterheads, the logos, every single thing, was very, pointing towards this looking like a real piece of communication. And I think they got away with almost about $8 million through that particular phishing attack. And I mean, everyone is just there now, embarrassed, asking themselves, how on earth did we fall for this particular threat? And it's interesting to see, how that is there. But I think another question that I've been want to ask you, Hussein, whilst you're on the floor, is really to say, look, at a group level, right? Looking at specifically, some of the markets that you've been involved in. Obviously, there's been a wide array of countries and areas across the digital majority. Obviously our Africa, Asia, Europe, Europe not necessarily not as much, but the Middle East. Where do you see the biggest blind spots and areas where you feel that there's underinvestment in those areas? I think obviously we've talked about the importance of process, people, systems. Where do you feel, across that the landscape, we're losing out and we're underinvesting?
That's a great question. So if we look at what's happening, and in all of these countries, Africa is one country, but one set of countries, but it's very similar. We're seeing the same sort of thing. Cloud computing has come in, and it's brought in so many benefits, in terms of economy, in terms of facility, scaling, flexibility, speed of deployment, all of those things. And cloud providers can also provide better security than an organization can implement on its own. So that has been one attraction. So people are going most often blindly towards that and adopting those services. They are putting aside their own services. Outsourcing of not only IT but also security services is happening across the board. And we saw when something collapses, like the CrowdStrike issue that happened, you had major organizations, and they didn't have people on the ground to cover and support them because they were totally dependent on people in another country. So that is also a reality across the board. Good things have been happening. The financial regulators have been adopting a risk-based supervision framework, just like in Nigeria, and stakeholders are now, because of the regulatory requirements, sharing more information. You have central certs which are collecting the information on attacks and sharing that out, what is happening, how it's being defended, what should be done. Data privacy, another critical area, which is also enforcing data classification and the protection of that data. That is also happening. Like if you look at Africa, 36 out of 54 countries, nations, have established their own data protection or privacy frameworks. But, and there's a big but over there, how much of this is really robust and has been properly implemented? So blind spots and underinvestments are in various areas. What we need is a proactive, technology-driven, multi-layered, like Teresa mentioned, multi-layered cybersecurity approach to defenses such as zero trust, digital trust, architecture. Zero trust, for example, says always verify, never trust, right? Whereas we are used to, all right, give someone an ID and password and they are in and that's it, done. That same person goes on, whether their credentials have been hijacked, we don't know. And robust incident response and recovery plans, because things will go down. They absolutely will. That's certain. So we need to be prepared. Use of AI for protection, threat detection. Right now, we have offensive security professionals. We have the concept of threat hunting. What RD was saying, we can't see it. So we need to start searching for exactly that. What is there under the water? Water level. We need to look at that. And where are we with the sort of regulations? The regulator has to drive this. Even where we have data privacy regulations in place, what is the implementation level? Is it is risk being treated just like a tick box exercise? Or is it actually robustly risk driven through assessments and all? And one of the biggest challenges that not only these developing nations but globally organizations are experiencing is a shortage of skilled resources, skilled cybersecurity professionals. It was projected that 3.5 to 4 million shortage skilled resources. There would be a shortage of skilled resources in 2025. Going forward, it's going to be even more because we are not producing as many skilled people. And ISACA has been working in that space, trying to do it. Many other organizations are trying to do that. So these are things where we really, really need to get together, think on a global scale, and look at the sort of challenges and remediations that we need.
No, definitely. I think as you say that, it's actually very, it makes me think through, what feels like a millennial ago. I mean, the CrowdStrike attack, this was just very recent. I mean, it's not too long ago. And, I think half the world stopped for a good, couple of hours there. And, that again, then goes back to saying, as organizations, yes, we want to outsource that security layer to help you see different types of threats and help you protect. But at the same time, you also need to be able to have the competent people, the back of the hood, who can be able to help to make sure that, they're holding those suppliers accountable, and that they've also got backup, services for some of those critical services as it goes. And it's very exciting, and I think it's going to be something that we'll be sharing, as we go around some of those particular frameworks. I think as I then move down to Claudia, I think one of my key questions is always, look, the regulators, especially in tightly regulated areas like, financial services, mining, and some of these industries, there are regulators who are seated there. And those regulators, their job really is to oversee and hold the industry participants accountable. But I think we can all agree that a lot of the regulatory developments, they can't keep pace with the change in technology. But how do you, from where you sit today, across your different hats, how do you see policymakers striking the right balance, between this enforcement of these cybersecurity standards and the allowance, for innovation, across, the areas of influence?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. This is a question that I used to do not just about cybersecurity, but in AI, for example, you have the same question. I have been working with the parliament here in Brazil regarding the AI law, the Brazilian AI law, and this is the key question that all the time you are discussing about how can you have the balance between innovation and regulation. Oh, it's a good question. It's a very difficult question, actually. Yeah, I will bring here some insights that you had from the Cyber Resilience Compass that you just launched 2 weeks ago from the World Economic Forum. No, so as you said, the key point is the regulatory lag. No, how the policymakers can keep the pace with the rapid technology advancement. No, not just cybersecurity, but AI, IoT, blockchain, quantum computing is coming now. So you have a dilemma here, no? If you have over regulation, you don't have innovation, no? And if you have under regulation, maybe you have risks. So so this is the point, the key point that about your question, and I wanted to bring here some lessons that you have in our report from the frontline practice. One solution that you have that if you want to later you can read this report, is available on internet, is from the Petronas company, oil and gas company from Malaysia, that which kind of solution they brought to this company. No, they started to have the cyber resilience embedded in the digital transformation from the beginning. So the cyber resilience is very aligned with the business goal. It's not separate from this one. No, so this is one of the things that they apply in their company. Of course, you have some policy implication on this, that you have to change the regulation. So the regulation should be very aligned with the outcomes, not just the incomes. For example, you can put in regulation how to minimize the disruption as a goal. No, you have to minimize the disruption as a goal, rather than just put like static rules or static controls. No. This one lesson that you learn from Petronas. There is another lesson that you learn that's also in the report. It came from the Business Resilience Council. That what they did is that they define a cross-sector coordination when you have some problem. No, so the problem has to solve from everyone, from every sector of the company, not just from the IT sector. And of course, and also they apply the partnership between public and private sector. So, for example, they made some partnership with CERT institution that the emission of a certificate, or information security centers, to share the threat intelligence and best practice. No, so they think that the collective cyber resilience should come not just from the government, but just the finance sector, healthcare sector, energy sector, supply chain, telecommunication sector. Everyone should work together. So
Mm.
these are two lessons that you have to show you from the front line. And the another point is how can you enable innovation safely, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there is one user case also in this report that came from Mark's company. That's a company in the logistic area. What they did is that you have to use data-driven models to prioritize risk. It means that you have to do some kind of simulations. You have to have like quantify risk reduction, not just compliance, like compliance checkbox that you just have to mark the checkbox and you are complying with this one and that's all. No, so they use really simulation and quantize risk reduction. No, not just check marks like qualitative compliance. No. The another point that very interesting that came from Dubai Electronic Security Center, that they create a framework that is like a sandbox environment when you have some new technology. So when you have some new technology that touch some critical infrastructure, go to the sandbox before you launch and you bring to the market. No. The third point that you have in this report, this is that you talked before with some colleagues here in the panel, that you have to have the partnership of the industry and academia. No, so you have to bring the knowledge of the academia to the industry to solve the problem, to help this problem, because sometimes the problems are very, how can I say, technology depth solution. You need some very deep technology solution. So you have to bring the academia to solve this one, because we are in the academia, you are doing research and you are learning, you're studying every day. So this is our task. So it's very good, this partnership. Actually, my university is doing this also. So there is one quote for someone from Evolution Key in this report that say, the industry has to be engaged in any solution, not regulates in a vacuum. No, so this is a quote from our report. So just to finalize, what recommendation I should do, I give to the policymakers. No, first of all, you have to have up-to-date regulation iteratively all the time with the industry input. You cannot just have one regulation and forget and let's discuss next year. You have to have, and you have to have, yes, and you have to have not just lawyers in the regulations. This is something that I used to fight here in Brazil all the time. No, bring the technical people as well. No, because you understand and you can say this law is very difficult to apply, to comply. No, so I have to. This is something very important. You have to have not just lawyer, but also technology people when you have the regulation. No, the second point is that you should have mandate cyber resilience across all the supply chain, as Mr. Hussein already said. This is very important. And the third one is you have to have collective defense. I think that you should create like a fund, a cross-border fund, to share the knowledge, to share the best practice, the good and the bad. So this is my contribution to this question. Thank you.
No, perfect. No, look, that's really exciting, to look at, what some of those key areas. I think for me, the quote that just really touched me is how much a lot of these regulations are created, with a bunch of lawyers in the room. And then, that's how you end up with regulations with so much more compliance than actual protection of, some of these cyber, issues. And I think it's actually also exciting, really, the insights that we were looking at here around, how we can be able to work with these sandbox environments, for us to be able to allow for, an organization to launch a product, and then be able to really use it under these controlled areas, for them to be able to see the risks as we go, so that it can be a risk-based approach. And I think it's something that we need to appeal to, across the governments, for us to say, look, we don't need to always, wait for the perfect regulatory environment or to understand all the risks, but rather we can allow for these sandbox environments that can allow us to be able to see and understand how these risks work. And like you said, I mean, this is applicable to fintech, it's applicable to AI, and all these key emerging technologies as they are coming. And it's exciting to see, how we can be able to build on that. And I think just as we go directly and flowing directly from that, I just want to then move over to Carissa. And I think, Carissa, we had a great chat sometime last year when we did Africa Tech Conference in our fireside chat, where we had a great conversation around the new threat that AI brings into the picture. Because I think nowadays, if you don't mention AI at least once in a webinar and a conference, you're going to have a problem. But really, look, the truth is that AI is now part of the attack and also the defense strategy. And where do you then believe that AI is generally adding value to this whole idea of cyber resilience? And to be quite frank, where is it being overstated? Because we also understand that with all these new advancements, there's a tendency of us techies, especially myself in the AI space, overestimating or overrepresenting, what capabilities are really on the ground today in terms of these technologies.
Yeah, Tavonga, so you're so right. There is almost a war between attackers and defenders on at the moment with adoption of AI. Both sides are adopting AI. Attackers are adopting it to, obviously, for nefarious means. They want to perpetrate attacks with it, and they're using it, to make themselves faster. So if you think about trying to get an attack to work against me, you'd need to do some reconnaissance. You'd need to understand what I usually do in a day to be able to get something that would lure me in. Attackers are using AI to be able to reduce the time and effort it takes them to do the reconnaissance on me, to investigate what's important to me, and to create a lure that's very, very tailored to me. And then, one of the panelists also spoke about how attackers are using AI to actually adapt attacks. So you try something and it doesn't work, but you learn something and you adjust and you go in and you try somewhere else. So it's also increasing the ability for them to get into an organization. The third area that it's sort of really scary about where attackers are using AI is they're using it once they've already stolen data. So if you think about a ransomware attack, an attacker's stolen data, and it's usually a large amount of data that they've stolen. And what is AI great at doing? Looking through data and finding patterns. Looking at so they're actually being aided to go and figure out what data they have and what's the value of the data that they have, which then means being able to monetize that is a lot faster. So we've got this engine being run with AI and attackers adopting AI. Now, on the flip side, defenders are also adopting AI, but we're adopting it more cautiously. And there's a good reason for that. We have to make sure when we adopt AI, we do it responsibly, we do it securely. Attackers, unfortunately, for us, don't have all of that burden. They just go ahead and adopt it. So defenders are adopting AI and we are seeing benefit. So what we've seen is when defenders do adopt AI, there is a 30% reduction in the time to actually contain an incident. So this is giving people like you and me the ability to go and actually prevent harm by closing down an attack faster. So and you can imagine, a few of us have said you can't prevent every single incident. There's so many threats out there. They're adapting so quickly. So the ability to really respond faster is super, super critical. And AI is giving defenders this ability. I think you spoke about where we're sort of overstating what AI can do. And I think, whenever I talk about AI, the one question I always get is AI going to replace all the cyber people out there? And the answer is definitely no. So I believe we're still always going to need the human in the link. Yes. AI is expanding, in an amazing way. It's making some amazing impact to what we can do, but we still need human insights to be able to overlay on top of AI to make certain decisions. And what I've seen a lot of people do is they will allow AI and automation in certain areas, but in certain areas they will say, we need a human eye on this, and and that takes expertise. That takes cyber expertise. So I think the overstatement of this is everyone saying, in 10 years' time, all the cyber practitioners are going to be sitting on the beach because there's going to be no need for us. Definitely not going to happen.
No, definitely. And I think it's an exciting one, really, because it's part of the brand that's been sold around this technology. And it's also very important as well to then say, obviously, the challenge that we have on the ground is attackers are always going to move much faster than we, the defenders. And that's by nature. Looking at all the technological advancements, I'm sure the Nigerian prince, for example, he understood how to use email much better than you did, and much faster than you were able to actually protect yourself, from that kind of attack. And I think the big appeal now to practitioners will always have to be to say, look, yes, we've got to be cautious around how we implement these things, but we also have to increase our pace and speed, to avoid a situation whereby it's way too late and there's nothing we can do about it. But I think as we go into that, we're just going to move over to Adi, and I think on your side, one of the key questions then is, obviously, right now you look at the landscape. And we did have the conversation in the beginning to say that the world is becoming one global village, and it's become very small. And because it's become so small, it means that all our infrastructure is essentially shared. So, our cloud payments, our national ID systems, and all these different systems, they're essentially used in the same environments. What systemic risks, concern you the most? And, what joint models, of responsibility, are working from what you're seeing on the ground?
Thank you, Taponga. Well, now you asked me where I'm sitting down. Where I sit now in the company. I sit on the senior board level, and what you're asking me is exactly what keep me awake every day, every night, 24/7. Yeah, and it's not. I think what Hussein, Claudia, Carissa, and the other colleagues were saying. Those are the things that we are facing. But from a management standpoint, apart from cyber threat, yeah, all known cyber threat that we know, of course, we have also critical infrastructure within our own system. Yeah, we have operational risks there, and of course, as one of our colleagues was mentioning about supply chain. Yeah, bear in mind that all of us, we have to admit. Yeah, we have to admit, and we have to be honest with ourselves. All of us are just plain consumers. We're not the creator of technology. Yeah, we are users. We are using technology, but we're just a consumer. That means we don't know what lies behind the technology. Yeah, how it was devised, where it was made. Yeah, and bear in mind when you talk about supply chain, if you can recall, within, let's say, your smartphone, yeah, within your smartphone, there's thousands components inside the smartphone, and each component has its own operating system that has its own firmware. Can you imagine if one component, the firmware is compromised? Can you imagine what's going to happen? And bear in mind, I was saying we're just consumer. We buy all those devices as is, and we just use it without checking.
Yeah.
You can imagine if this same technology, same infrastructure, same peripherals going into the bigger system, what's going to happen? And this is the kind of operational risk that we're facing.
Yeah.
On top of that, we have discussed about regulatory compliance. The problems. Usually the regulation are outdated compared to the pace of the speed of the new technologies coming into play. Yeah, it's always lag behind. And on top of that, the regulator very seldom they write something. They write some rules, regulation, which does not reflect the actual situation or development in the market. And most of the regulatory issues, that have been drawn up, is always adopting a bureaucratic approach rather than operational approach.
Yeah.
Simplistic approach. Yeah. And this is a problem. And bear in mind, cybersecurity is not about bureaucracy. It's about speed.
Yeah.
It's about speed. Why? It's about speed because it concerns two things: human life and business continuity. Yeah. That's why it's very important. And the fourth, systemic risk that we're facing, of course, economic disparities.
Yeah.
That's also becoming a problem. We're facing that now, and this digital divide, digital literacy, and everybody talks about all these nice things about technology, but in reality, Hussein has 217 million people in this country. I have more than 280 million people. Do you think 280 million people knows a lot about technology? No, not even 2%. Not even 2% understand the technology. So, whose responsibility is to teach this generation of people to understand about the evolving technology and also the risk? And there is a question about not only digital literacy, it also raise a question about cultural issues, cultural risks. Yeah, and when you reflect the company, it's also raising question about organizational culture. Does that reflect with the current issues that we're facing? And this is a big question. So
Yeah.
who's responsible is to teach our people about this technology? And of course, the last thing that keep that we are always thinking is about trust. When you encounter some problems, you encounter incident, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
We have a taxi in Jakarta called Bluebird. Yeah, it's a very well-known taxi company. Yeah, and the Bluebird driver told me, yeah, the meter, yeah, the taxi meter when it start, it keep going up and going up. That's what incidents all about. When you encounter incident, it's very expensive. It's like a taxi meter, and it's not.
Oh yeah.
The meter is not stopping. You have apart on top of that, you have apart from reputational risks, you have trust issues, and you have a third party litigation. Yeah, and you don't know who else is going to sue you. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a big cost to bear from all these incidents. And a lot of company does not even have any third party protection like insurance. This is where cyber insurance come to play. Of course, cyber insurance is very expensive. But nowadays, having seen what's happening throughout the world, I think we should discuss about cyber insurance, in various discussion, because when you encounter a problem, who's going to bear the cost? Who's going to bear the cost? I mean, company cannot bear all the costs. You're going to bankrupt them. It's going to be put them in a spot. So these are the issues that we are facing as a senior management in the company on day-to-day basis, 24/7, you name it. That's why I don't know what vacation is all about, because we're thinking about this. I have a lot of employees to think about. If something happened to our company, let's say a lot of legal issues here, somebody sue us, then of course the people who will get affected, not only our customer, but also our employee. Yeah, and this is why we think about this. And you mentioned also what are the remedies, yeah, maybe joint responsibility, yeah. Of course, um, mitigating this risk, you cannot do it alone. The government, the regulator, it's not they cannot do it on their own. That's why the public-private partnership, we call it the PPP, is very important. Claudia was mentioning it. It involves everybody. We call it the multi-stakeholder approach. Yeah, multi-stakeholder approach, and this is the key. When you talk about cybersecurity, you can't just talk about government perspective, but you have also to see from the perspective of the industry, the academia, and also the mass people, the common people, the users, the consumers. If you just look on one side, then you're not talking about cybersecurity. You're talking about something else. This is very important. On top of that, you also mentioned something about regional cooperation. I call it regional collaboration. This is the key now. The key word globally now is collaboration. We need to institutionalize collaboration. Yeah, for information sharing, education, training, and this has to be put in place. In all the regions that we're working. Yeah, and on top of that, also we need to have a shared standards. Yeah, shared standards and protocol to handle the compliance issues, how to handle the incidents, collectively, and of course, we have to also the other thing that we need to do is to how to collaborate in handling incidents, which
Yeah.
very rare because there's a lot of political issues, sovereignty issues. This is something that we must just turn the wall down. When you talk about
Definitely.
cyber, there is no wall. When you have an
Mm.
incident, there's no wall. We have to collaborate, we have to cooperate, we have to work together. And lastly, of course, the key important thing, you have to invest on your human talent. There's no point talking about cybersecurity without investment on your human talents.
Yeah.
You need to update the knowledge of your people. This is part of the strategy to educate better, and to keep up with the growth and the new development of the technology. And this is very, very important and very, very, how you said, very key to what we're discussing this evening. I think that's my
Yeah.
take, from my side. Thank you.
Definitely. No, perfect. No, thank you so much for that. And I think you've also gone on to answer the next question that you're going to that I was going to ask you, as we close the session. I think, in 2 minutes, I think I got a little bit overexcited during the session that now we've slightly went over the time, and my apologies for that. I think just in about 2 minutes, I'll go over to you, Carissa, as well as to Ali. What is one urgent recommendation, that you have for a CISO, who's watching this clip or this video, today? And what actionable item would you ask them to go and work on today?
So I think the one thing, Tavonga, is understanding that any business change impacts cybersecurity. So whether you're doing an acquisition, whether you're doing a partnership. So CISO's job is really getting the C-suite and the board to understand that wherever decisions are being made, it does impact cybersecurity, because a CISO can't solve the world's problems, can't keep an organization safe on their own.
Yeah.
So really embedding that understanding that any business change has a ripple impact on cyber is really important. And then the second thing is the CISO being able to speak business language and being able to predict where the business is going, so that they can put the security practices in place. And security is not a blocker, it's an enabler of business practice.
Definitely. That's an exciting one, and a great recommendation there. And then Hussein?
Yes. So, what we've been hearing, I think it brings focus on that point that these threats are evolving. We are all facing a challenge, multiple challenges actually. So the CISO, my recommendation to him would be to implement an adaptive cybersecurity framework, with real-time threat intelligence. You can't look at traditional things and think we are going to be able to protect. We have to see what is happening right now.
Yeah.
So build that into, and for regulators, the policymakers, they should enforce this. They should make an enabling environment rather than make it difficult for people to follow and implement regulations. So provide those robust frameworks to people. So working in tandem, we can address the challenges.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And I think thank you so much for, some of those key points that you've brought in, to the panel team. And I think it's really exciting for at least as a start, as a starting point. I think I want us to have a follow-up conversations a few months from now, and we start to share these insights. We will be sharing these insights with our community, with all the different teams across, iDEA and the 70 countries that we're currently representing. And it'll be exciting also to hear from them, what some of the thoughts have been in implementing, some of the key recommendations that we've had today. And we're really excited to, have had you, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation, really, for coming through. And for those who've stuck out in the audience, throughout the session, thank you so much for joining us, this afternoon. I think Alexander just has rejoined there for a picture, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I want to note that iDEA now includes more than 90 countries already, so we're growing
It's
well.
now 90 countries. There we go. Yes. And it's exciting, really, what kind of impact we can be able to have collectively. And like Alexander has said as well, it's a community with policymakers, executive teams, and so on. And we're going to be sharing some of these insights directly with them. Thank you so much, team, for joining us. And I think just after this, if possible, please do just put on your camera just for a small minute, just so we can get a group photo. In this age of webinars, the idea of a group photo has changed. If we can just get a group photo together, for sharing, we will, like I said earlier on, we will share a full recording of the video, and we'll also do some clips as we go on, to talk about what we have here. All right. Do we all? All right. Monica and Solofelo, anything on your side? And Keleto, Sheila, please just share your side just for a second, just so we can take a group photo. There we go. All right, there we go. Thank you. All right, so just in a few seconds, we're going to be capturing. All right, 1, 2. Oh, good Lord. Then the thing went away. All right, 1, 2, 3. IDEA. All right, we managed to capture it. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We definitely look forward to engaging further together. I will also definitely be in touch about how you too can also be able to contribute in the IDEA community. We're always really looking to work with leaders from across the world for us to be able to make the mandate work. Thank you so much once again for joining us today, and let's all have a good rest of the day. Good
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you
Thank
again.
you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
All the best.
Bye.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks to both of you for all the help and support. You kept it flowing. Really enjoyed the discussion. Didn't realize so much time had passed. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been an hour already.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
All
no, but it was exciting. It was exciting. Thank you so much.
Have a nice day. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, Hussein.
Good one. Good day.
Chief.
Right, my boss.